From fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, this is Pod Therapy. Real people, real problems, and real therapists. You can submit your questions anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. Big things are happening for Pod Therapy. Jim is giving a talk about Martian mental health at the 23rd Annual Mars Society Convention. And in other news, I have named myself the hockey ambassador to the planet Mercury. And now, broadcasting from the churn, that guy is Dr. Jim Jobin. I'm Nick Tangeman. It's time for some Pod Therapy.
The Mars Convention is a real thing, I'll have you know.
So is Mercury, and so is hockey.
Yeah,
so
okay.
we're on even ground.
Hold on, let me check. Yep, checks out.
Survey says, bing! Mercury's real, so is hockey. We will also be discussing that more in, I think, the next Patreon of the next show, because that's what I have it slotted. But the truth is, yes, I will be speaking at the Mars Society 23rd Annual Convention. It'll be held entirely on Zoom, and it's going to be a lot of fun. My topic is Martian mental health, and my subtitle is How COVID-19 Accidentally Invented Interplanetary Therapy. I'm talking about how, by doing therapy on Zoom, with people who were confined to their homes and socially isolated and scared to leave because there was a physical danger threat, it accidentally gave us the conditions to help us, practice.
I mean, the title says it all.
Thanks.
Which I think means that there's nothing else really to say
Okay, just
about
let it there. Yeah, so my entire talk is going to be that. I'm going to read my title. I'm working on the PowerPoint. It's going to be one slide. It's going to be a good picture of Mars.
You're going to read the title, and you're going to be like, did you hear what I said?
Did you guys get it? You guys get where I was going with that?
I'll reread it.
There's going to be some... I'll read it slower this time. So yeah, more on that if you'd like to hear about it. Become a Patreon of the show, because the next episode, I'll probably be talking about that a little bit. If we have time, we have a lot of space fare to discuss in the next Patreon, including Battlefield Earth. But those things are ahead of us. But happy September, Nick.
Yeah.
We are 9 months into this fantastic year. Yeah. We're almost ready to close this thing down.
Yes.
You can't name a year that's been better.
That's
because
true.
You don't have the breath in your body to speak.
Because you're too busy cowering in a corner somewhere or buying a bunker. Yeah, I've actually looked into that. Also, listen
bunker
to this.
Purchasing?
Let me pitch you a business.
Wait a minute.
Okay, hear me out.
You don't get the breeze over that.
No, that's the business. That's the business.
Okay.
Oh, I'm digging into it. So I've been thinking a lot lately. Wouldn't there be? Check this out. You go out into Pahrump, okay? Buy a bunch of land. Not even that much land. Just buy land, okay? Then you install underground bunkers. Then you lease those bunkers. Business. It's like an apartment complex for doomsday preppers.
But part of the thing with doomsday preppers is that they don't want other people to know where their bunkers are.
True.
They want their bunkers in a not public location.
That's one of the things they want. But if I'm offering really good amenities and you don't have to go build the damn thing, and I have a security guy, huh?
Oh, you didn't talk about the guy.
All right. See, I'm sweetening the deal. Okay, shaded parking, security guy, running water.
Okay.
Jim's Doomsday Sheds. Go to votejim.net, and find out about the Doomsday Sheds, or vote for me for Best of Las Vegas.
Do not go to votejim.net.
Go to votejim.net.
Best what?
Best therapist.
Best.
I'm the only forward-thinking therapist building a doomsday complex in the middle of the desert.
And I think that says it all.
Not true.
I'm the guy you want to know.
It's not true.
I'm the guy. If I go forward with this business, you're going to be glad you knew me. Okay?
We're going to need to fact check that.
It's going to matter, okay? Yeah, you're going to be like, I know this guy that kind of built this series of doomsday sheds in the middle of the desert. I have his cell phone number. I'm that number you don't delete, because I'm the guy with the sheds.
Yeah.
You'll see. And then also a subway. There's going to be a subway under there, too. It's going to be a whole constellation. I was thinking underground
Why not
parking.
put a good restaurant in there? Get like a Firehouse Subs.
Subway is fresh. Firehouse is the best, though.
That did start a little bit of a controversy on Twitter.
Yeah, somebody on Twitter yelled at me, and they were like, Subway is the McDonald's of deli sandwiches.
Oh, yeah, Subway's terrible.
I told my wife that, she was like, yes. Yeah. That is 100% exactly what they are. And I was like, oh, that's really true.
Yeah.
But I hear that as a good thing. I consider McDonald's fine dining. So, how was your popcorn shrimp, Jacob?
It was good.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's Popeyes, right?
I had some Popeyes popcorn shrimp today.
It's a good choice. I like it. So what's the A block today, Nick?
Well, in other news,
in things that don't have to do with Jim's Doomsday Shed.
Yeah,
or
which
votejim.net.
actually, this,
Votejim.net.
okay,
Go to
let's see if I can
votejim.net.
segue into this. Well, what I wanted to talk about was solution-focused brief therapy.
I love solution-focused brief therapy.
So we have brought this up several times in the last few shows. It seems like it's kind of been a thing that we've talked quite a bit about.
Yeah, we had a question about modality where
We did that.
an aspiring therapist who's in school asked us, hey, what do you guys think about picking your theory and how does that go down?
We also talked about it in a couple other people who had asked questions.
Yeah,
So
we've
we brought
referenced
up
it.
Solution-focused brief therapy. So I kind of wanted to do just a little bit of a deep dive into this. Some of this information is going to be useful for any therapist that is wanting to learn about solution-focused brief therapy, but I really kind of want to explain it to
Jacob?
to Jacob.
Thank you.
As he was walking out of the room. Oh.
Solution-focused therapy.
Dun, 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 dun. It's the only therapy with a theme song, which you are legally required to recite to the client before beginning.
Yeah. So solution-focused brief therapy, just to kind of give everybody a brief idea, synopsis of kind of what it is.
Can you give us a brief and solution-oriented summary of this therapy?
It's not boxers.
It's brief.
All right. So
SFBT is the thong of therapy.
I can see I'm the only one that's going to take this seriously.
You're doing
today.
great. You're doing great.
I'm just covering time while you flip through pages.
Love
So
your graphs,
it
by
kind
the
of,
way. I don't think it's going to help many of the listeners.
Kinda, as you can see here.
As you can see on my graph.
No, it kind of stems from the work of Milton Erickson.
Love Milton Erickson.
But it was actually developed by Insoo Kim Berg and Steve DeShazar.
They're the ones
in
who named it.
Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Okay, so they
Where
kind of
all good psychology comes from.
Right, exactly.
Milwaukee.
And Harley Davidson motorcycles
And cheese.
and cheese.
Fried cheese.
So
A lot of people don't know
kind
that.
of the central philosophy of solution-focused brief therapy. It's a little bit different than a lot of other forms of therapy in that it doesn't focus on the problem.
Right.
It is solution-focused.
Yes.
Right? So it's focusing on
If
actually
only there was
looking
something
for...
in the title that would give you a
Right.
hint.
Yeah, this is a lot like my Mars
Now,
presentation.
hold on. It's a lot more nuanced than that.
It's also brief.
We'll get... it's therapy.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
we're going to dive
I think
into
the
this.
therapy part is the part that's complex.
So, okay.
Is there some kind of focus?
I see we've already dived into it, so I guess we're ready to come out. No, but some of the central philosophy, if it isn't broke, don't fix it,
Yes.
right? If you know what works, do more of it,
Yes.
which seems very simple. And if something doesn't work, stop doing it.
Yeah.
Do
Right.
something different,
Right.
right? And it seems very simple, overly simple. But yet, when we've gotten into therapy in the past, a lot of modalities just kind of skip over that and really want to focus a lot on problems and not really actually focusing on what is going to dig the person out of this.
Which is pretty revolutionary, though. Like, I want to take a moment to help the listener, because I think it's one of those things where if you're not a therapist and you haven't had to do the advanced training in different kinds of theory and the history of theory, you don't quite understand the revolution that solution-focused brief therapy is. It is one of the first theory. We actually classify it as what we call a postmodern theory. Mm-hmm. And in part because it's very disinterested in, like, knowing what's true. Other theories were very interested in discussing what is right and wrong, who is right. Like, Freud had a lot of opinions, and if you disagreed with Freud, you were wrong.
Right.
And so, like, there was a lot of these theories that had, like, a North Star. Solution-focused is very interesting in the sense that it doesn't.
Right.
It lets you define what the North Star is, and it tries to help you get out of your own way. Not by imposing outside lessons on you of what others have done and what everybody else should do, just studying you and helping you see how you kink your own hose.
Yeah, because a lot of older therapies before that were focusing on we need to understand the problem.
Yes.
And once we identify the problem and once we understand the problem, then we can do something to fix the problem.
Right.
Whereas solution focus takes a completely different approach. And the idea here is that if therapy works, it leads to the client doing something different.
Yes. Change.
And yes, and it's that client doing something different that results in success.
Yeah. And
So it has nothing necessarily to do with the problem. It focuses on how the person addresses the problem.
yeah, and that is revolutionary because you have to look, and it's funny because if you are a student of psychology, if you're in a grad program or you're a colleague, you could just listen to Nick and I's show. And if we never told you we were into solution focus, you'd know that we were into solution focus because of the way we language things. we typically do not fixate on the problem. We don't typically pathologize people. You see that we're always like uneasy about putting labels or diagnoses on you or describing everything that's wrong. And instead we tend to pivot to, oh, but Ryder, look at what you're doing great here. Love to see you do more of that. That's the beginning of the next step. Let's go in that direction. And we're motivational, right? We're always trying to push you forward, not get you fixated on the wall, getting you fixated on the way through. And that's very solution-focused perspectives.
Right. And so without the understanding, or without the client doing something different, all the understanding in the world is irrelevant.
Right.
It doesn't matter how well you understand the problem if there's no change in behavior.
Right.
Right. So it really kind of focuses on what are we going to do different, right? So the idea here, the emphasis with solution-focused behavioral therapy is connecting with the person, not the problem.
Exactly.
So to speak.
Yeah.
So really we're focusing on the problem can cause the problem to become part of the person's identity.
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to avoid. So being able to focus on the person and understand the person is not the problem.
Right.
The person has a problem.
I am a person who experiences anxiety. I am not anxiety, right? And I don't want to be called that. I don't want to be seen as a person who is or has anxiety. I'm a person who experiences it, and sometimes I don't. And so I don't want to be defined by it, because that also puts me at a disadvantage. It's the same thing in weight loss. And that's something we're going to be talking about a lot in October. But like whenever a person's like, or in addictions work, we talk about progress, not perfection, right? You're not defined by the drug that you use. You're not defined by your overeating. You're not defined by your weight. These are just aspects that you're dealing with right now. And there's sometimes when you do the right thing, we got to focus on what you do right too, or sometimes how you do things less wrong sometimes. Mm-hmm. That's helpful too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the big things that I really like about solution-focused brief therapy, I mentioned it once before on a previous episode, is the idea of pre-season change.
Yeah.
Okay, so there was actually some research done by Talman in 1990 and Weiner Davis in 1987, and it's estimated that 67% of outpatient clients report some positive change in the time between making the appointment and showing up for the first appointment. 67% report improvement.
Yeah. I used to put that on my intake.
Right.
A question that said, how have things gotten better since you made today's appointment?
Yes.
And people were like, how did you know?
Right. And that is something that has really kind of been glossed over.
Right.
But so the whole idea with solution-focused brief therapy is we're looking for exceptions.
Right.
Exceptions are the key to solving the problem.
Right.
So we get into this idea that I have this problem and this problem always exists.
The rule is Jim overeats.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so if we're going to use that as an example, Jim overeats.
I overeat.
Okay. If we continue to address the problem, what we're doing is we're starting to lock ourselves into this idea, and Jim overeats, and we're going to try to dig into this, and we're going to understand Jim's overeating patterns and all that, which is not necessarily harmful information to know. There could be some useful information in that.
It can be discouraging.
Exactly. However, what I'm going to ask Jim in a solution-focused brief therapy session is I'm going to ask Jim, tell me about a time recently when you didn't overeat. Tell me about a time when it's kind of an exception to the rule.
Yeah.
A time where you would have normally eaten, but you didn't.
Right.
Because within the exception
is the beginning of the solution.
Exactly. So that shows us, because the idea here is that we're human beings.
Right.
So no matter what you do, you will never do anything 100% all the time.
Right.
And that's not just for good things. That's also for bad things.
Right.
I love golf. I'm never going to be 100% all the time.
Right.
Okay. Well, if I overeat, I'm not going to overeat 100% of the time.
Nobody's that consistent.
Exactly. Because we're all human beings. So what we need to do is we identify the exception.
Right.
And then we build off of that, because within that exception is something that's happening that is working.
Here's a real world example. So if we're using that situation, listener, here's the way a therapist will use it. So if I'm talking to Nick, he's my therapist, and I say, I'm really trying to work on overeating. That's why I'm working with you. And Nick says, great, tell me about what you did last night. And I say, okay, well, last night there was hockey, and we barbecued some cheeseburgers, and I overate. Okay, Jim, how many cheeseburgers do you have? I had 2. I probably could have just stopped at 1. Were there more cheeseburgers, Jim? Well, yeah, there were. Okay, did you end up putting some in the fridge? Yeah, we did. How come you didn't have 3? Oh, well, I thought about it. Okay, but you didn't, huh? You only had 2? Yeah, I only had 2. How did you manage to do that, Jim? How did you manage to stop it 2? Oh, I don't know. I guess I just really didn't want to do 3. That felt like way too much. So instead, I actually went and got a glass of water and sat down and watched. I had some grapes. Wow, there you go, buddy. That's the beginning of us seeing what change could be, right? Even in the midst of what you would say might have been a bad day, there's always something to study that could be helpful to the next day.
And this actually kind of goes down the road of scaling questions.
Yes,
The use
which is
of
a
scaling
technique that
questions.
comes out of SFBT.
Right. Which essentially is we're going to identify where you currently are on a scale from 0 to 10.
Right.
And this scale could be whatever you
How
want
bad
it to
was
be.
your anxiety on a
Right.
scale of
So
1
if
to
we're
10?
talking anxiety and 10 is debilitating anxiety
Right.
at its
Take me to the
absolute
hospital.
worst.
Yeah.
0, perfectly calm. Where are you today?
Right.
All right. So we identify a baseline of, okay, today I'm at a 5.
Yep.
Okay. Wow. 5's great. What's keeping you from going to a 6?
Exactly.
Right. So we're going to, because most people, when you get into therapy, a lot of times we're going to wonder, okay, 5, we need to go down to a 4.
Right.
And not looking at what's keeping them from going, because there are certain skills that they are using naturally, which we build off of in solution focused. And the reason why that's really important, because no one else can take credit for that.
Right. Only
That
you
is
can.
solely the responsible of the individual.
I love solution focused because it is relentlessly and stubbornly optimistic.
Yes.
It refuses to believe that you're not going to succeed.
Right.
And I love that. It's just
Of course you love it.
yeah, that is a very natural fit. It's a very natural fit. But like, I love it because, you'll talk to somebody.
That makes all the sense in the world.
They'll be like, Jim, I'm so disappointed in myself. I'm at like a 6 right now on this problem. And you'll go, oh, wow, how did you manage to not let that get to a 7? And they'll go, well, I mean, I'm at a 6, man. It's pretty bad. That is pretty rough. How did you stop it from getting to a 7? Because I'm sure the momentum wants to head toward that 7. Oh, wow, Jim. Well, I guess I just pulled aside and started taking some deep breaths and journaled a little bit. And I guess that held me at a 6. That's awesome, right? And it's like, you're doing it. Look at you. You're doing it.
Now,
And it's like, this is great.
Now, we don't just stop there, because then what we do is when we're at a 5, then once we've identified what's kept them from going to a 6, then we do want to start turning and looking forward.
Right.
So, all right, you're at a 5. What would move you from a 5 to a 4.5?
Right.
Right.
How
And
do we
then
just
that's
come down
when we
a
start,
touch?
exactly, that's when we start talking about goals.
Right.
And creating some goals and objectives that we're going to set to start making that progress in the other direction.
Right.
So there's 7 qualities of well-formed goals that I'm going to go over.
Happy, sleepy, grumpy, doc.
I said no, but keep going.
Okay, hold on. Bashful, sneezy, dopey.
Did you get all 7?
Now I'm just...
I think I did. I think I was counting on my fingers.
So anyway, Jacob, 7 qualities of well-formed goals.
Mine are better.
1 is saliency to the client.
Oh, saliency?
Yes.
Nobody's going to want a gnome named Saliency.
So the treatment goal, they're gnomes.
They're the 7 dwarves.
Oh,
It's
geez.
in the name.
Well, oh, geez. Come on, guys. That is outdated talk. That is outdated.
Okay. So treatment goals
We're gonna
must
get
be,
tweets on this.
They must be important to the client, right? That's what we're talking about, saliency. They
Yes.
have to be something that is important to the client, that's going to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And sometimes we overlook that. We just assume that if they create a goal that it's going to be meaningful to them,
Yes.
but not necessarily.
Sometimes somebody
So-
told them they need to do that, but it's not meaningful to them.
Exactly. So we need to, ask the client, to get them more invested into what they're doing. Some questions, is this step challenging enough for you?
Right.
If you accomplish this, is it going to mean something?
Tell me why it will make your life better.
Exactly. Are you ready to take these next small steps?
Yes.
Right. All of that's going to be important. And that leads into the second one, which is small. So we need to
Yes.
make our goals very small and
Very
actionable.
achievable.
Right.
Yeah.
So they have to be achievable in small units. And the reason why that's really important is because it forces us to be very very descriptive
Yes.
on what we're going to be doing. It makes it very clear. And so the question that we really want to ask is, if we imagine the progress you're making as being a road trip,
Mm-hmm.
right? What is the first landmark that you would expect to see that would tell you you're going in the right direction?
Yeah.
So if we go back to Jim's overeating goal,
Yeah.
so we're going to establish what you would like instead of overeating,
Right.
right?
That's the big
And
picture.
then, yeah, which is one of the other qualities that we're going to get to in a second. But we also want to look at, okay, assuming you're going to start making progress as you start to make progress,
How will we know?
what is the first small thing?
Yep.
And think really small. What's the first small thing that we would expect to
Yep.
see?
How will you know that you've started to make changes in this area?
Exactly.
Oh, I would not have the third cheeseburger. Great.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Let's
or
look for
maybe
that.
maybe it would be something like I would plan my meals out.
Yeah. Something small.
Something small.
I would
right?
drink more water. Or I guess I'd be more insight driven about this. It wouldn't just feel like it's happening. Great.
Right.
Those are milestones. We're looking for those.
Yep, very, very small. And sometimes people will identify bigger things, and then what we want to do is we want to help them break that down into
yeah.
smaller things.
Does it matter so much what those milestones are, or
No.
just having milestones as long as they are achievable milestones?
As long as they're not unrealistic.
It's-
Okay.
And like when we say small, we don't mean minuscule. Like it still has to have meaning.
But here's the other thing that's really important too, because when we do this, what we're actually doing is we're forcing them to envision change.
Yep.
Right? So they start seeing what it's going to
Yeah.
look like.
This
right?
okay, so this is actually another reason why I love solution focus. This is the trick of it. And like even as we're describing all this theory to you, here's what another therapist actually knows that the common listener doesn't. Even these little goals, even these 7 assumptions, even the 10 big assumptions or the core values of SFBT, all of it is inviting you to enter into a grid of presuppositions. What I mean by that is you're accepting a perspective from the therapist, and we're tricking you into that in a polite way because we want you to believe change is possible.
Yes.
You are going to be optimistic, damn it. Like, I am going to get you to believe that this could happen. And even if it's getting you to set those little minuscule goals and like starting to, what I'm accidentally doing or what you're accidentally doing as the client is you're believing.
Yeah.
You're starting to believe.
I tell you, Jim loves positivity and optimism almost as much as he loves abbreviations.
VoteJim.net. Go to VoteJim.net.
If there were 2 things that Jim loves most in the
I'm
world,
very passionate about abbreviations.
if there were 4 things, it'd be positivity, abbreviations, his wife, and his children.
Yeah, they're in there somewhere.
But
But
it's only 2.
abbreviation is very important to me.
Now,
VoteJim.net.
and that actually goes into the next quality, which is concrete, specific, and behavioral.
Yes.
So the other thing that's really interesting about
Yeah.
solution focused
Good point.
is we start to identify things that the client or any of us who's doing this, we associate as being effects of the change,
Right.
when in reality it is the cause
Of the
change.
Right.
Right? So when we start identifying, when I'm eating healthy, what are the things that I'm going to be doing differently?
Right.
Right? Well, I'm going to start doing this, and I'm going to start doing this. We talk about it as though it's a cause.
Right.
But in reality, what we do is we say, okay, let's start doing those things. And then ultimately that produces the result.
Act as if. Yeah.
Right.
A lot of people would say, oh, if I was succeeding in this therapy and my brain was changing, one of the ways you'd notice that is you'd see me taking a walk every evening after dinner. And we say, great. And then at some point, we weave in there the goal or the action step of like, hey, Nick, what I'd really like to have you do for me tomorrow, why don't you take a walk after dinner? Okay, yeah, I'll give that a try. Yeah, try that on. Let's see how that feels. Well, what are we doing? We're getting you the result first, and then the change follows.
Yes.
Like, you can do that, and it's really effective.
The fourth thing is we want to make sure that our goals are in the presence of something preferred.
Yes.
Okay? So what I mean by that is oftentimes when you ask people what they want, they're going to identify something that they don't want.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Aim away
So
from
what-
failure, and you'll
right.
always hit success.
Right. What do I want? I want to not be depressed.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the reason why we don't want to set that as a goal, we don't want to leave it there
Right.
because human beings are always in the action stage, right? We're
Right.
always moving towards something. So to set a goal that we're not going to do something, ultimately what it ends up doing is it starts flooding our mind with the thing we're not supposed to be
I don't
doing.
want to think about pink elephants.
Yeah, exactly.
Instead of that, we're going to say, hey, have you ever seen a green giraffe?
Well, or what we do is we ask,
Right.
what do you want to see instead of pink elephants?
Right.
So if we're
Focus
asking,
on
if
that.
we're starting to talk about, I don't want to have anxiety anymore. Okay. What do you want
Instead.
to experience instead of anxiety?
Yep.
All right. Well, yeah. And then we start getting them talking about, well, I want to be able to go out to the store and buy something out in public with a lot of people without having that sense of anxiety. All right. Well,
Great.
what do you want to feel instead of anxiety? Well, I want to feel comfort.
Yeah.
All right. So now we're starting to identify, which is important because what we're doing is, again, we're going back to visualizing what it is that we want.
Yep.
And once we have something in the presence of something preferred, we can actually start moving towards it.
Which is what that solution focus means.
Very good.
Focusing on. But that, I mean, it sounds overly simplified, but
It is.
that is kind of what we're talking about.
Yeah. The other thing, another quality is
What number are we on? 5?
5.
Cinco.
Okay. Focus on this is about a beginning rather than an end.
Right.
Okay. So solution focus really takes the perspective of, again, like kind of using that landmark example.
Right.
As we start working towards this, what is the first landmark? We're talking about these are the first steps, and that's all we're focusing on.
Right.
Right. Is we're going to focus on these short-term things, and we're going to continue focusing on making progress, and we'll develop the rest of the plan as we go.
Yes. We don't want you overthinking about what's going to happen in a year. We just want you to, just for today, kind of mentality.
Right. And then once we're on track, then we ask, what else?
Yes.
Right. And we can continue asking what else.
Yeah. We add to the plan as we go.
Yeah.
Just starting is what matters.
Another one, realistic and achievable goals.
Numero
so this one becomes complicated sometimes because we have clients where when we ask these solution-focused questions, what is it that you want? Sometimes what they want is something that is not realistic.
Right.
So I'm working with somebody whose spouse died.
Right.
What is it that you want? Well, I want my spouse back.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Or if they're talking about like where they want to go in life. Well, I want to be financially awesome. I want to be completely at peace. I want to be enlightened and living my best life and have no fear whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got it. I want that too. But hey, let's take a look at that, right? Because real life's going to happen, buddy. We're still going to have bad days, going to rain on us still, and going to have bills to pay and going to have to go to work. So I like what you're saying, but let's zero in on that, right?
So a lot of times the analogy that I like to use when talking about solution-focused brief therapy is imagine you, and then on top of you is this huge, heavy boulder.
Atlas.
Okay, and it's just weighing you down.
Yes.
And you can't move forward in life. Everybody else is passing you by, and you're just stuck because you have this boulder. And this boulder represents your problem. Our goal isn't to remove the boulder. Our goal is to slide you out from under it.
Right.
Because if you can learn to coexist with the boulder, it doesn't weigh you down.
Right. Stand next to it.
You don't have to carry it.
Right.
You can take steps forward. And if this chooses to walk with you, fine.
Right. But you're moving.
It may walk with you for the rest of your life.
Right.
But what are some things that we can do to just at least slide you out from under it?
Right.
Right. And so that's how we change things from things that can't realistically happen into things that we can actually
progress, not perfection.
Take steps towards.
Number 7.
Perceiving this as hard work.
Yes.
Which is very important. Because everybody needs to understand that change is very difficult. We don't change easily.
Right.
Okay. Human beings don't change very easily. It is the result of a lot of practice.
Yes.
A lot of repeating the same things and creating new patterns of behavior, things like that. So it's very important. A lot of times when we're using solution-focused brief therapy is we reiterate the hard work that this person is putting in towards it. Even if it is something very, very, and even in the client's mind, if they see it as something very simple. Yeah, I stopped at 2 cheeseburgers instead of 3.
Who cares?
Right? Who
no,
cares?
Jim, that is a big deal. Is it? No, it is, buddy. It is. Have you ever gone on and had more cheeseburgers in a night? Well, yeah, lots of times. Jim, this is awesome. I'm really proud of you, man. That was great. Oh, thanks. I guess I didn't realize that it was, no. It's the beginning of something good. Right. And that's not insincere praise.
No.
It's intentionally choosing to highlight things that escape your notice because that's part of the complex of negativity that you live in. We're trying to highlight the solution so that you can see it and learn from it.
Right. And the reason why this is important is because when the goal is described as difficult and hard work,
right,
then the client is forced to internalize responsibility for achieving it.
Exactly.
While also having a way to maintain a sense of self-respect in the event of failure.
Yes. Yeah. You're not beating yourself up. You're learning to give yourself praise. You're also learning to see you did it. Mm-hmm. I didn't do it for you. Your friends didn't do it for you. The magic formula didn't do it for you. You did that. And guess what? You're your own guru. And the more we can empower you, the more you feel strong enough to take on other challenges. Yep. So, and another thing I love about SFBT is I think it's like this snowball into change kind of thing. Like you start with the little snowball, you start rolling down the hill, it turns into an avalanche. You get that momentum. And change will happen like that. You just got to get that ball rolling. I like that.
Those are the 7. Now, the last thing I want to do, if We got a little. I think we got time.
Yeah,
time.
why not?
We got time.
Make the whole show about this.
It's our
Go
show.
ahead.
It's our
we
show.
do what
We got
want.
time. We got all the time we want.
Yeah. We could boot Matt Damon.
Yeah. Sorry, Matt. We'll get you next week.
He's sitting across from us scowling.
So what we can do, here's the last thing I want to do. I want to actually go through an exercise real quick, which is the walk in the park.
I was told there would be no exercise on this show.
I'm sorry. This one's
Walking?
That's true.
This one's
very hard for the
this
mic
one's
to work.
mental.
All right, I'm going to have to yell.
I don't know if you've heard me do this one before.
Walk in the park?
A walk in the park.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, for the listener, I want you to think about a problem that you're dealing with.
Okay, I'll do it.
All right.
Do you want me to verbalize mine?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I want you to internalize it.
Oh.
Don't verbalize it. Think about
Just
it.
sit here silently?
But we're going to do a visualization exercise. Okay? I
Not
want you.
Jim's strong suit.
I know.
Did
I
I already
this
fail?
Yeah.
Am I doing
This
good?
is.
All right, so
I should
I'm
have done this on a day that you couldn't show up.
I'm here. I'm thinking about my problem.
Right.
Go ahead.
You could have muted him on the phone.
It's
Yeah,
true.
exactly. I want you to imagine that you're going for a walk in the park.
Yes.
Okay? And I want you to imagine it's one of those perfect Las Vegas temperature days.
Yeah, the fall.
Where it's not too hot, it's not too cold, it's just that perfect temperature.
Yeah.
You're walking, the grass is green, you're seeing the clouds in the sky, blue skies, birds chirping, everything is going really well.
Okay.
And you're walking in the park. You want to enjoy the day. All right? You really want to, but you can't.
Uh-huh.
Because on your mind, occupying your mind, is this problem you're dealing with. And you get to a point where you just feel paralyzed by this problem. So you decide you're going to sit down on a park bench. So you're sitting down on the park bench, kind of with your head in your hands and your elbows on your knees, thinking about this problem, just constantly dwelling on it, wishing you could get this thing to go away. And you kind of notice that there's somebody sitting on the park bench next to you, but you're not really paying attention to it. You're really just trying to enjoy the day, trying to find some kind of resolution to this problem. And then you realize that this person sitting next to you is an elderly person. They look kind of familiar to you, but you're not exactly sure how. You're just so focused on this problem. And then all of a sudden it hits you, and you realize who this person is. And you realize that you're sitting on the park bench next to your future self. And your future self knows you and knows exactly what you're going through, has lived through this exact problem, and they're smiling at you. And this future you slides over next to you, puts their arm around you, and says, what?
So the advice that they're going to give me.
Yeah, so
Okay.
that's the
They know what is
focus.
on my mind. They
Yes,
know what's on my mind.
because they've already dealt with it.
And they're saying,
right?
let me tell you how this gets better.
Right.
Do this.
And sometimes
I like
it's
that.
not, yeah, and so sometimes it's not necessarily them giving you advice.
Yeah.
Actually, 99% of the time when I've used this, the person doesn't come up with advice.
Just comfort.
It's just, hey, we're going to be all right.
You're going to get through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This seems terrible right now, but we're going to be okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And the reason why this is so powerful is because it's not anything that I'm telling this person.
It's you.
Yeah. Which means they already know it,
Right.
right? They already have it within themselves that they understand that they can make progress,
I love that.
right? And it's also not any kind of wishful thinking,
No.
because we're not changing the condition.
No.
The bad thing that you're dealing with has happened,
Right.
is happening, and nothing is changing with it.
Yeah.
All we're doing is we're removing you from underneath of it and identifying a way that you can take a few steps forward.
I like the realness of time aspect in that too. Because I imagine things that bothered me when I was half the age I am right now. And how big those things seemed. And how important those things seemed. And if I could just go back in the past right now and talk to half my age Jim, and, what would I say to him? And I'd probably try to tell him, I know this seems really big right now.
Yeah.
And I respect that. But, buddy, you end up fine. And one day you're going to look back and be like, wow, I remember being bothered by that, but I don't even remember why it was such a big deal.
Yep.
That's how distant one day this is going to feel. So I realize that might comfort you. I realize you still have to deal with this problem in the now. But at least take some solace knowing this does not define us. You're going to have different things in your life. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
It's a profound thing to think about. And then give yourself that gift from the future, imagining the old person telling you that.
Now, for our therapists, our psychology students and will-be therapists, I also accompanied that with what's known as a yes set, if you happen to catch that.
Yeah.
Do you know what a yes set is?
Me?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I know what it is. Why don't you explain what it is?
Yeah, I know. I totally know
what do
what
you
it is.
think it is?
A yes set is kind of a hypnotic technique in which I'm describing things that everybody can relate to.
Right.
And it gets them into a yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, the example I always like to use is talking about going to a movie. Like, I'm the type where I don't like watching movies at home. I like going to the movie. Right. I like the experience of going to the movie, right? I like the build up to it. I like getting my popcorn, my snacks and everything, sitting in the dark, seeing all those ads, and then the ads go away, the room gets dark.
The whole experience.
Yeah, and then we get that THX sound that comes through and we start getting exciting. Yeah. What I did right there was a yes set.
Right, because everything you're saying, I can nod to and go, oh, yeah.
I'm saying this, and you're replying with
I like
yes.
that too.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what that does is it helps set up an example like you sitting next to yourself on a park bench. If I just started off with, Jim, you're sitting next to yourself on a park bench, I've lost you.
Yeah.
Because you're like, okay, this is stupid.
You couldn't relate to the whole thing. It doesn't put you in a mental position to receive the wisdom.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
So the yes set slowly builds you up to this situation.
So I want to add a final thought before we have to pivot. But to all of you who are listening and you're like, okay, wow, there was like 7 pieces to that, and it seems kind of like a philosophy, and there's like all these little interventions. I don't need you to be at all trying to keep track of everything we talked about.
Exactly.
This is inside baseball. We're explaining it because I think it's interesting. We think that you'll find it informative. But your therapist is the one who is an expert at using this. And as Blaise Pascal once said, the true philosophers make light of philosophy. The true great psychotherapists do it and you don't even realize they're doing it.
Right.
You're not supposed to figure it out. You're just supposed to show up, commit to hard work, stay focused on what could happen, and then do what you're told. And if you just show up and do that, a therapist of any stripe, even if they don't use SFBT, their job's to get you there. Your job's to be willing, honest, and motivated.
Your life coach knows what's going on.
VoteGym.net. Go to VoteGym.net. Don't go to Life Coach. Stay away from that guy.
All right, Nick. The real quick before we go to the commercial, the yes thing. Have you ever had somebody where you're like, yeah, you know how you love going to the movies and you love when that THX sound comes on, and they just go like, nah, I don't like that THX thing.
I don't go to the movies.
Okay, so I've used this a lot, and there have been a lot of folks. I
don't go to the park.
No, there have been some that
I hate pigeons.
I hate pigeons. There's no grass in Nevada.
Somewhere
never good weather.
I sense a little, I don't want to say resistance, but hesitancy where they're not buying into it yet. But I can sense that, and I can just kind of pivot just a little to the side.
All right.
And then you just do it until you get that yes, and then you take the next step. And then you just keep going. I've never had it not work.
Okay.
I've had to pivot.
You'd have to find somebody.
You've had to do a little extra work.
Yes.
Yeah. And in fairness, most folks that are talking to you in that setting are trying to learn from you. Like, they want to participate.
Well, I mean, I work in addiction treatment.
Right.
The great majority of my clients are mandated clients.
Right, they're not thrilled
They don't
to be there.
want to be there.
Yeah, right.
So that poses there's a whole other subset of solution-focused brief
motivational
therapy.
interviewing.
Yeah, that really talks about work with mandated clients.
Yep.
But we'll get to that.
And of course, you do get into the part where you do the park bench thing. What Nick has not said is that his example is always, and then you realize the older person sitting next to you is old Jim.
Yeah,
right. yeah. It's always old Jim.
It's old Jim.
With Jim, it's old himself. Everybody else, it's old Jim.
You know what's really interesting, though? The thing that I've had to really focus on is not making my example gender specific.
I want to do the whole thing over again, and I want this time for Jacob to play spooky music over it while we go. I feel like it has a whole different vibe. I feel like the whole thing
we'll do that in post.
You're walking in a park. It's a perfect day. The clouds are out. Ooh, the sky is blue. The grass is green. You sit on a bench, overwhelmed by your problems. Head in your hands, elbows on your knees. You barely notice the person sitting beside you. They seem similar, familiar almost, but then distinct and different. He's got a knife. That's odd. But you pay no mind. Lots of people have knives, and I'm not here to judge that guy. His knife seems to be dripping some kind of jelly. That seems odd. Who's jellying toast in the middle of a park? But you pay no mind because you believe in libertarianism and each person gets to do what they want. You hear a bird crow as it goes over you.
You hear some creepy guy in the woods saying, VoteJim.net.
VoteJim.net. VoteJim.net. And then old Jim looks at you and says, did you know I won Best of Las Vegas in 2020? Before I got this snazzy New York accent.
It got unbelievable there towards the
end.
We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to discuss question marks. Oh, wait, in-person therapy. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Smitty Scoop, savior of fantasy football.
And commissioner on high. Undisputed.
Okay, this week, we've got Ben & Jerry ice cream flavors.
Oh.
I know all of our scoops are boo, but that's fine. I'm going to go through this.
Ben & Jerry's.
Oh, okay, all right.
There's like barely
there's
any
not.
scoops that even
Sure
listen
there's
to this
not.
show.
Right. This description, or the description to this Ben & Jerry's flavor, so you got to guess the flavor, is a cold mess of chocolate ice cream with fudge chips and crunchy potato chip swirl.
Oh, is this that Jimmy Fallon late night snack?
I don't think so.
Late night
No.
snack.
No.
Final answer.
No.
chocolate.
It has chips in it? Potato chips?
Yes.
It's the late night snack.
No, it's not. Jim, you think I would be lying to you right now?
Yes, I do think that.
All right, well, this is no longer fun. Chip happens.
Oh, I forgot that they use puns.
Yeah, it's
Did
all
you ever
puns.
have the Jimmy Fallon late night snack?
No.
It was gross.
If you would like to join Smitty Scoop and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com/therapy.
You know the one that I actually really liked at that time, though? Because there was like a thing where Fallon and Colbert were both doing things to try to raise
Americone
money.
Dream.
Americone Dream. That was
that
so
was a good one.
It was fantastic. It had a waffle cone in it.
My favorite was always half-baked.
Half-baked is solid.
What is
Yes.
that?
It's brownie batter and chocolate chip cookie dough, and I can't remember if it's vanilla or chocolate ice cream.
I think it's vanilla.
Oh,
think
my
it is,
God,
too.
that does
And I think there's
sound
some chocolate swirl in
Yes.
in it as
good.
well.
Oh, wow. I don't think I've ever had
good.
that.
No, half-baked is that's an easy go-to on Ben & Jerry's.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez. I haven't had Ben & Jerry's in a long time.
Yeah, me neither.
I'm due. I usually just get vanilla ice cream.
Okay.
Hello, friends. It's been a while since my last email, so I'll provide a quick recap before my question. I've been seeing a therapist. All right, let's give it a shot.
No.
We don't know where this is going to go.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I barely got it long before we get to anything.
I didn't pre-read this. Sorry.
I'm making my joke and then I'm out.
I have been seeing a therapist for several years. We've been working on issues related to social anxiety disorder and with agoraphobia, major depressive disorder, and PTSD. My last email to you was because my therapist and I had made some sudden progress with EMDR, and I was having difficulty emotionally stabilizing after the session. All that was obviously before the shutdown. We have moved to phone-only sessions, so we're not doing EMDR anymore. That discourages me because just when we were doing our best work, my progress was placed on indefinite hold. I don't fault my therapist for that, but the situation still sucks. What's more, the phone sessions are now becoming unpleasant to me. I dread them. I don't like talking on the phone for hours. I no longer feel as connected with my therapist. I have hearing issues that have caused me to lose the conversation sometimes. I experience terrible anxiety from every lull in the conversation, and I often feel worse after my session than I did before it. I don't know what to do. I don't want to lose my spot with my therapist, but I don't like the way things are in their current form. I have brought this up to my therapist before, and there are no plans to return to live sessions at this time. I completely understand and agree with my therapist's decision. I'm not 100% sure I would be able to feel safe during an in-office session right now either. So, I'm screwed either way. As the pandemic continues, I'm confronted by the thought that the help upon which I used to rely no longer exists. I'm losing hope at an alarming rate. What's my move? Do I quit my longtime therapist? Is telehealth the only way forward forever now? If that's the case, I don't think I will ever get better, and that's unbearable to think about. Thanks for your advice, Mason, a.k.a. Night Scoops.
Isn't it good I didn't play the spooky music?
Yeah.
Good call. That's a good call.
I'm not going to do that.
Way to bail early on that one.
Yeah. I don't know where we're going. I'm not going to do that.
It's a dark room. I don't want to just throw things around in here.
I never thought about how EMDR was going to be impacted.
Oh, yeah.
What is that?
So EMDR is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing.
Yep.
So essentially, Jim can probably give you a better description of this, but it's used a lot with treatment of PTSD.
Okay.
Because essentially what it helps to do is as they are exploring the trauma, you're doing something that is activating both hemispheres of the brain. And then by doing that, it helps to create a new narrative, really. Kind of it helps to process
it speeds up
the trauma.
Yeah. Whenever a person goes through trauma, essentially what's kind of happening is their brain sort of has like a memory save glitch about that event. Where it doesn't understand it and it feels afraid of whatever happened. And so then they get triggered, right? And so like if you were robbed at a bank, every time you drive by a bank, like you start to have bad feelings about the bank and you start feeling scared again and you're having physical reactions. PTSD, right? Post-traumatic stress disorder. And so what EMDR does is it joins with reprocessing therapy, which is whenever we try to rediscuss, re-narrate, and re-understand the memory. What are we doing? We're opening up the file and we're trying to fix the corruptions in it so that the brain can just absorb it and you can have peace with it. EMDR is a technique that uses bilateral stimulation, which is what Nick was talking about with the brain. And essentially it asks you to do physical movements, which is usually having to do with your eyes rocking from one side to the other, like crossing the middle ground of your nose.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So sometimes,
while you're talking about
so
things.
there's a physical motion that you can focus on.
Yes.
While you're talking,
or you're doing, like you might move your hands.
Sometimes
from
it's tapping
knee
the
to
table.
knee.
Right.
Yeah. Or you might.
But you still have to focus. You have to focus part of your brain on that physical movement.
Yes.
And by doing that while reprocessing a memory, it actually accelerates and ultimately disempowers the memory file, so to speak, and just using a brain hack to accelerate that. Yeah. But you're right, and I've heard this a lot. It's hard for patients because two things. If you're going to do trauma work as a therapist, you are opening up Pandora's box. Mm-hmm. This is a carefully guarded secret in this person's life. It's not safe for them to open it up anywhere else. So if you're going to open it up with them and start talking about something very scary that happened to them, that can cause them to feel all kinds of ways. It can cause them to react all kinds of ways. You, as a therapist, generally want to be in the room with them so that you can protect them.
You want a controlled environment.
You want a very controlled environment. You don't want them getting a doorbell ring with Amazon package. You don't want the glitch to suddenly cut out the phone call. Or you don't want to have a garbled voice. You want to have complete control over your environment because it's a very careful process and what you're doing is very specific. So a lot of EMDR people, and especially trauma therapists, have found themselves stepping back and saying, listen, I'm willing to work with you right now, and we're going to work on a lot of things, but I'm not going to open up the trauma stuff right now, or I'm not going to use these advanced techniques because I don't feel safe doing them unless we're next to each other and I have control over you.
Yeah.
I don't like doing it over the phone.
Yeah.
And so for this writer, they're missing out on work that the writer was saying, man, I was doing really good. I was making great progress. This thing has really interrupted them.
Yeah. And so I guess one of the questions, that Mason's asking is, what is the next step from here? Am I losing anything that you've gained? I don't think you're definitely not losing anything that you've gained. Your progress is your progress.
You don't lose it, but I see their point where they're saying,
oh, absolutely.
I don't look forward to therapy because this modality, or not modality, but this medium doesn't work for me.
Exactly.
Like, I don't like talking on the phone. It's icky to me.
So it's almost real face-to-face therapy is not going to go away. Right. That's going to come back.
It'll come back
at some point.
And it already is back.
There's still a huge need for that.
Right.
But not with his therapist.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's tough too. He's got to ask himself, do I switch therapists?
And
if you're in the same room, it's a hard call.
And that's tough because if your therapist isn't comfortable with doing that, even Mason is saying, I'm not 100% comfortable going back to it.
Right.
And also Mason's saying, I'm scared to just take a break because, and this is something we don't talk a lot about on the show, but the logistics of getting a therapist, a lot of times you have to make a commitment. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times you'll ask a therapist, an opening question you'll ask a therapist is, are you taking new patients? And that's basically because they can say no. And they can say, I'm sorry, no. right? And so, like, getting the chance to work with a therapist and being on their caseload is sometimes an honor, not an honor, but I guess it's hard to get. And so, like, there's this sense of, like, I don't want to throw away my spot because that spot could get filled, and then in the future I won't be able to get to that therapist again.
You know, I don't know if
I've done the same thing with general practitioners.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're like, no,
It's
you're
like, oh,
on or
this
not.
sucks. This was a bad experience this time.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I should go get another doctor. Oh, I don't know. This doctor's really good.
Yeah.
It took some string pulling to get me in with this doctor in the
Right?
first place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or the next appointment with a new doctor, because you're not an established patient, could be like months and months and months. You're on a waiting list.
Yeah.
That's how it is with therapists, too.
I don't know if it'd be beneficial to think of it this way, but I guess in that situation, I would kind of look at it as I made a lot of progress in these individual sessions. We can do individual sessions right now. So right now I'm just kind of looking at it as maintenance.
Yeah.
I'm doing individual therapy, telehealth, to kind of maintain the progress I've made. And then once we're able to go back into the office, then we jump back into the EMDR.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's tough because you don't. There's probably some EMDR stuff that you could do telehealth, but I don't know if you'd want to.
No, it's pretty tricky. I know some therapists that are going for it, but they're only doing it like via Zoom.
Yeah,
and there's a lot of precautions they have to take. It's borderline risky for them.
Yeah,
and so, like, I don't know. And like in Mason's case, I also appreciate the complexity of this because at the same time, I get that you've told your therapist, and I'm actually really pleased with that.
Yes.
Right? Because of course we were going to tell you to do that.
Yes.
Like, and you did it, and you told us, hey man, I already did this. And like, I get for the therapist's sake, like I have lots of patients that say this to me. And this is something I'm grappling and wrestling with right now in my practice. My lease is up in 3 months. I just paid my September rent, and I haven't been in this place for 6 months. I was in there for 60 days.
Yeah.
And then walked out, and I pay every month for an office I do not use. I am working, and I'm doing okay. And there's a lot of people I now treat that I never could have seen in office. And I'm proud of that, and I like that. But there's a lot of people I used to treat, and they won't come back, and they're frustrated with me. And they're like, Jim, will you ever go back to your office? A lot of other therapists have. And I'm like, well, yeah, mentally I think I will one day, but part of me is wrestling with that. And I don't know how I feel, and I don't want to disappoint them. And there's a lot of patients like Mason that I'll think to myself, man, I know I could do so much better with Mason if I was in person with him, but I have to make big decisions for my entire practice, my entire caseload, and for my mental health. And Mason's also pointing out, hey, I don't know that I would benefit from in-office.
Yeah.
Because I'd have to wear a mask the whole time. We both would. And I'd probably not feel great about that either. And so it's just a shitburger. And
It is.
I appreciate that it all sucks.
Yeah.
Mason, everything's bad.
The one thing we know, the only thing that we know for sure is that this is going to get better, though.
Yes, that's
the only
true.
thing that we know for sure is that either we're going to go back to in-person stuff at some point, or the telehealth stuff and the online Zoom stuff, things like that, that's going to get better.
Yes.
And that might get better to a point that you do like it. I mean, so this is, for Mason, this is probably the bottom of, this is probably the worst that Mason is going to feel about this particular issue.
I think that's true.
I don't think something's going to happen where suddenly it gets worse than what it is right now.
Right. I would agree with that. Of course, I've been saying that about 2020 all along. I can't imagine it getting
I don't
worse.
say it's going to happen this week.
Yeah.
So Mason says, do I quit my longtime therapist? I guess my off-the-top answer is I don't love that path.
Yeah.
I don't know what the logistical barriers are, why the therapist can't switch over to like doing Zoom or something. A lot of therapists won't. And a lot of therapists are just sticking to phone. I do Zoom or phone.
Why is that?
I think there's a lot of reasons. So it costs money. You know, like you, the therapist, have to pay out of pocket to use a software that is HIPAA compliant. And the HIPAA stuff is very nebulous.
Oh, so you can't just use Zoom.
Right. No,
you have to
get
pay
the
for the
upgraded
upgrade
version.
Yeah. And so there's a cost,
Yeah.
and some therapists are not going to pay that cost.
Because the regular version isn't HIPAA compliant.
Or it could
So
be
just
a logistics
Zoom
thing.
Pro is HIPAA compliant?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's got to have double encryption on it.
Okay, therapists. Hey, Scoops pays for Zoom Pro. Go ahead and get Zoom Pro.
Well, okay. But it could be a logistics thing, right? The person
I have
could be
less
like,
patience for that answer.
yeah.
You're not wrong.
It's
You're not
tricky.
wrong.
But, you know, and like that's only one platform. So I don't know. It could be that the therapist doesn't have good internet. Maybe they live in a rural place and they used to drive to an office, you know, and that's the deal.
I wouldn't do phone sessions. I mean, Zoom is like it's the best
It's
that you've
honestly
got
such a good
available.
alternative.
That's the bridge.
It
easy.
is. It's the best thing next to in person.
I get all of the same nonverbal.
I'm not saying Zoom. I'm just saying video conferencing.
I'll do the
VC would be good too, or
that's
whatever.
fine.
But
I mean, I like phone too. You know, I'll do it in all these different modalities. Like, I don't mind. I adapt my technique, of course. You know, like your communication style is going to adapt. But anyway, to Mason, you know, should you quit that person? No, I don't hear anything that screams quit them. And I think that, I mean, I would wonder, is it possible to do less frequent sessions with them and perhaps start with a new person as well? And I'm okay with that. Supplemental team therapy is sometimes very useful, but it's also tricky, Nick, because I don't want him trying to do EMDR with like a substitute. Like, it's too deep. You need to stick to your person. I don't know. And then I also appreciate his problem because he's like, I do not look forward to this. Yeah. It's not just like I could just do nothing and just wait for things to get better. I don't like this anymore.
That's the tough part of the whole email there.
I agree. And I think, Mason, I think you're doing the best you can do with the situation. I mean, you're doing everything we would ask you to do, which is to be honest with your therapist, to talk to your therapist about this, and just be 100% honest and say, I don't like doing this, and these lulls in the conversation create anxiety for me, you know, and explore alternatives with your therapist.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the best you can do.
And that's what's frustrating is he's already, you know, starting that conversation. I want you to feel comfortable bringing it up, asking for advice and saying, do you have any thoughts on how I could adapt better to this? Anything that could help me with the lulls in the conversation, so that I don't, can you reassure me, confessing. I'm just a big fan of giving away your truth to the therapist in a way that doesn't provoke them to become defensive and feel like you're questioning their method, but in a way that says, hey, I'm trying to adapt. Yeah. And another question that Mason had asked in here was, do you think that telehealth is the forever thing now? No. I do think it has created itself so that it will now always be on the table. Yes. Whereas it didn't used to be. Only 20% of the field even offered telehealth at all. Right. And like now, I think even post-COVID, it will be like a significant portion of the field offers it.
Oh, yeah.
And then a small portion of the field exclusively
Well, a big part of that is because insurance companies are forced to open up and pay for it.
Which they were for a window, and then that stopped, that discontinued. And so now the Senate and the Congress, last I heard, there was a discussion about them trying to push that to make it a permanent
I think
feature.
they will. But ultimately, Mason, I think the most important thing, if you get nothing out of anything else we're saying, most people don't. True. But you keep writing in, so...
Thanks for hanging in there, buddy.
Thanks for hanging in. The most important thing, I think, is just to remember this isn't forever.
Right.
This is temporary.
Yeah.
You know, we're not... The field of mental health isn't going to do away with in-person because... Or do away with treating trauma through EMDR. Right. That's such a huge portion of what's happening right now with mental health is all about trauma. There's no way that the whole industry is just going to do away with its most effective treatment.
But you know what? That makes me think of something, Nick.
What?
If Mason, I was going to say if Mason was my patient, but I feel like that always becomes a little complicated. I shouldn't talk that way. So let me say it this way. If one of my patients was like, hey, Jim, are you ever going to go back? If that answer today, I would say, hey, yes, I still have an office. I have every intention of going back eventually. On January 1st, I may have let my lease go. Yeah. And if they say, Jim, are you going back at that point? I may have made a professional choice for myself. And I may say, not until I'm required to. Yeah. I like this lifestyle. This is better for me. I'm reaching a different kind of person. I might not be the good fit therapist that I was when we started our work. And it might be time for you to reevaluate and find the therapist that meets your needs.
But that's something you want to go over with your therapist.
That might be.
I mean, that is, and that's a good thing to go over with your therapist. And hopefully your therapist is open to having that conversation.
Yeah.
And I think the lack of a timeline is definitely the biggest contributor for the anxiety.
Right.
You know, because it's easy to say like, okay, I can handle this because I know at the end of October this will all be over.
Right.
But the fact that we have no timeline whatsoever and we have no clue what's going to happen with this, it just makes it really unbearable. Yeah. And the only thing I can offer is just the idea that as a profession, there's no way that we're not going to find some way of using EMDR to treat trauma. It's just too big. it's going to happen at some point.
Yeah.
It has to happen at some point. We're not just going to let that ball drop. So I know that it's going to get better.
The modality has to go back. Mason, I would encourage you to at least shop around. At least look around and see what other therapists are taking appointments, who's covered by your current financial mechanism that you pay for this with. At least shop and start considering.
I would also take a look into what things would have to be done for you to be more comfortable going back to in-person. So, because he's saying he even himself has a lot of anxiety and doesn't feel 100% safe. So start taking a look at what would be those things that you would require if you're going to go back in person.
Well, you might have to try it before you know.
Right. And it could be, the size of the office that the person has. If you can social distance in the office and what are their protocols and procedures.
It's time to start shopping, honestly.
Yeah.
And I don't get upset at that. I have patients that are doing that. I have patients that have said, Jim, I really liked working with you. I'm really disappointed because I really want to get back together in the office, but I also respect that you're not going to, and I respect that right now I don't know that I would love doing that. And I tell them, it's okay with me if you need to go explore. I'm one therapist. There's a lot of us. And what matters to me most is that patients are getting help.
Yep.
I might not be the good fit in 2020 that I was in 2019. And that's okay. Great thoughts. Thanks for writing in, Mason.
Yeah.
Sorry we didn't give you great advice, but
yeah, it's just a shitty situation. I feel bad for you. There's no easy answer to that, and I think right now it's just kind of one of those things that we're just all going to have to do our best until things get better, but things will get better.
Hold on to that.
Yes.
And sorry about that weird transition. Both the guys just turned and looked at me like they were ready
I thought
for me
you had
to say
something you were going to say.
I did a while ago.
I cut him off a while ago. He doesn't hold on to thoughts for like 15 seconds. That's a long time.
I thought enough had been said.
We're going to take our last break. When we come back, we're going to close out the show. You're listening to Pod Therapy.
This week's TheraProducer sponsor is Jake Schneider. Our second trivia question in honor of TheraProducer Jake is: the description to this Ben & Jerry's flavor is a universe of milk chocolate ice cream with fudge cows. Yeah, that does say fudge cows. It does say fudge cows and toffee meteor clusters orbiting a sugar cookie dough core.
Milky Way.
Oh, that's definitely it.
No, it's not Milky Way, but you're on the right track. It's space.
Milky Way.
Oh,
Ooh, you're even closer.
What? That was closer?
Yes.
My made-up Milky Way?
Yes.
Is there another?
I don't know Ben & Jerry's flavors terribly well.
I don't know.
If you would like to join Jake Schneider and make the show possible, go to patreon.com/therapy and sign up. Again, that's patreon.com.
Oh, I am lost. I need to know the answer. What is it?
Boots over the moon.
That was a step in the right direction.
Yep.
That was a step in the right direction.
All right, next ones. The next shows will be easier.
That's fine. All right. So this is the first show of the month. If you support us at patreon.com/therapy, at any level, we are so grateful. But every month we take the time at the beginning.
We do have a follow-up on.
We don't have time, so we got to boot to the next show. I told you, Matt Damon's not going to be allowed to stay.
Okay, all right.
Matt's got to hold on to the next class. So we do want to recognize all those who contribute to our show at the THERAPOD level. Our army
I don't want to keep interrupting you, but we have a new THERAPOD.
Brooks Lyle is the newest THERAPOD. Welcome back, Brooks, the creator of Pegasus, which is still in my office.
Is it?
Yeah. My wife picked it up the other day, and she's like, "Hey, I'm going to throw this out." And I was like, "The hell you are!" No, you are not. That stays here forever. And she's like, "You do not use this." I'm like, "You're misunderstanding the purpose of this.
It's not to be used."
Yeah, it's not. Nobody uses it. That's why it's in that glass case. Why would you even ask that question?
Do you know how expensive that glass case was?
Do you know how expensive it was to frame this thing and put the lighting on it? Getting the lighting just right is ridiculous. So thanks, Brooks. Also, we want to thank all of our TheraPods, including Adam Petanuzzo, Mats Lenegren, I Have the Knack, Lauren Izzo in the Hizzo, Carolyn Albert, Angie Ellis, Chelsea Lamb, Felicia Butler, David Sorensen, Todd Canfield, who's sitting next to older Todd Canfield, Elliot H. Lamb, Matthew Nair, Kenneth Liu, Adam Rybiznik, who I have beef with, by the way. We got into a whole fight on Twitter a while ago. Jim Hunter, Katie
Chewakowski.
James K., Kenneth Soto, Okie Scoop, Chelsea Saracen, Jessica Vint, Scoopiter Ascending, Don Dorr, Scoopatron, Andrew M. Frozen, Custer, Richard Bruins, Joseph Bengrazio, Gary Terror, a.k.a. Nick Sister, Curtis Kiwi, Scoop Hanlon, Tracy Replogal, a.k.a. My Mom, Craig Little, Gavin Bristow, Brad Kefauver, Malaya, Scoopaholic, Jeffrey Ackerman, 3 Scoops a Lady, Kate Keller, Scoopstronaut, Tess Miller, Lori Eltzroth, Shayla Bullock, Ian Whitefall, Robert Paulson. His name is Robert Paulson. Stacy Westerland, Linda Brandmeier, Corey Owens.
And our pterodactyls. Thank you to all of our...
Oh, damn it. Give me the echo back. That was...
Yeah, otherwise it just sounds silly.
Yeah, way to clean that up.
I like to think that's what they sounded like.
Right. We've got Reverend Scoop Kevin, Ivan Elsa, Rachel Dusto, Slurpy Kaye Motherfucker, Lindsay Bashara, Mason Miller, Sally Boop Scoop, Tom Morrison, Andrea Anderson, Cindy Ash, Fred Bashara Jr., David Pollock, Ice Blue Scoop, Leon Kassab, who thinks he's going to win again this year, but he won't.
Oh, as God is my witness, I will defeat him.
Yes, we'll make it happen. Scott
I don't care
Brady,
if I have to cheat.
Brian Lehman, and Dan Martin.
Also, if you are on our patreon.com/therapy, you can participate in lots of things, including the Pod Therapy Fantasy Football League, assuming there's any spots left by the time you hear this. And this month, assuming I am nominated for Best of Las Vegas, go to votejim.net, where you can vote for Jim all month long. I will be enticing your votes by adding a whole bunch of extra content anywhere I can. Begging for your votes. Go to votejim.net. We especially want to thank our bosses, the Elite Eight, the mysterious and shrouded Illuminati members of the fan club, the THERAPRODUCERs. Thank you, Smitty Scoop, Jake Schneider, Robert Brownie Jr., Mint, Kayla Lansbury, Ellie O'Dare, Judy Schneider, Nathan's Hot Dog Scoop, Dr. Ben Dawn, and ex officio board member, Crazy Banana Scoop.
If you'd like to hear this episode uncut and unedited and enjoy our spontaneous side projects, go to patreon.com/therapy. And thank you for supporting mental health.
That's all the time that we have for this week's session. We want to thank our landlords, the Ice Cream Social Podcast, and thanks to those of you who contributed to our show today. We really appreciate it. Remember, Pod Therapy isn't something you should keep all to yourself. Share this episode with someone who needs it by opening the episode's description in your podcast app and copying and pasting the link provided into your social media. Don't forget, you could find us on facebook.com/podtherapy, on Twitter at PodTherapyGuys, and at patreon.com/therapy.
Do you want to submit a question to the show? Ask anonymously at podtherapy.net or email us at podtherapyguys@gmail.com. I'm Nick Tanchman.
I'm Jim from the future.
Thanks, and we'll see you for your appointment next week.